Hey everyone, on this episode of Dr. Cliff Worldwide Vet, I'm going to introduce you to this little rescue puppy named Chanel and show you what happens when they break their leg and they haven't been fed proper puppy food their entire lives. So stay tuned. Alright, thanks for joining us. So, this little girl came to a rescue that we work with. She had a broken leg. The family surrendered it. They couldn't afford treatment and came to us about a week later with this very nice soft cast. We call this a Robert Jones bandage on. And there was a fractured radius ulna, so basically the wrist, just above the wrist. We took x-rays. The fracture site seemed to be well positioned. She was handling the soft bandage very well. Frankly, she looked amazing. So we left it on for another week, as you normally do. And then we saw her back a week later, and things weren't looking quite right. The recheck x-rays showed that the healing hadn't begun. There was actually some instability, which we couldn't explain. But unfortunately, after we sedated her and started removing the bandage, there were some concerns regarding the health of the tissue. Basically, the paw was cold, there wasn't very good blood supply, the skin was dead. It was pretty much as bad as we could have imagined. And what I found out, we couldn't really understand why the fracture had occurred other than the dog had jumped off the table, but it was a very unusual break for that type of accident. But after talking to the people at the shelter, they had explained to me that poor little Chanel, her entire first year, was not on a proper puppy diet. She was likely just fed meat or rice, meat or bread, something of that nature. And she developed a condition called metabolic bone disease, which is basically where her bones were starved of the minerals they need, and she continued to grow, but her bones were very, very weak. So this explained, one, not only how the fracture happened with such a minor little kind of injury or fall, but also how things weren't healing properly. There's probably some nerve damage and some blood damage, some vascular damage. And we had to give the shelter the bad news that, one, it wasn't healing well, two, it was never going to heal well, and unfortunately we're going to have to amputate the arm to save the rest of Chanel. But we think she's going to do well. It's going to be a tough surgery and some tough rehab afterwards. But she's got some great foster families to stay with, and we'll help her find her forever home very, very soon. So stay tuned and make sure you feed your puppies and kittens proper diets, please. Thank you.
Like all this because somebody's trying to figure out.
So originally I was hoping to do a mid-humerus, sort of mid-forearm or mid-upper arm break. But the problem is the incision has to go down below the elbow so that we can kind of get underneath and have some skin. But if you see this kind of red and purple line here, that's where the skin is inflamed, because just beyond this, above the elbow, the skin has died off. So we're actually going to have to disarticulate, or basically dislocate the shoulder and take the entire arm off by taking it from the shoulder blade, or from the shoulder joint. It's a little bit of a harder surgery, but kind of more cosmetic, and he'll have a few less healing complications because he won't have a little stump to bang into things and whatnot. But no prosthetic limb for this guy. He's gonna have to be a cute little tripod jumping around. Our little girl did very, very well. She should heal very well and be hopping around in no time. Yay. How do you think that went, Julia?
Great.
How do you think this girl's gonna do?
Great. She's gonna be hopping along soon.
Yay. Okay, done with the surgery. So we had some complications. There were definitely some issues we had to deal with. When we first removed the Robert Jones bandage, we could see that the dead tissue, the unhealthy part of the arm, was a lot higher up the arm than anticipated. Much higher than the actual fracture. So there must have been a blood clot or something like that that had occurred previously that had basically stopped blood flow to the lower portion. I had originally wanted to do an amputation mid-humerus, so mid-upper arm. It's faster, it's easier. The likelihood of a prosthetic limb is pretty small, but you know, if that's an option, we actually have then that sort of stump of an arm to put into the prosthetic limb. But unfortunately, the tissue slightly above the elbow actually wasn't even 100% healthy, or at least it was inflamed, and I just didn't want to trust sort of closure of that tissue if it's already dealing with some toxins and some abnormalities due to the healing. So we had to do a full forearm disarticulation, dislocation at the shoulder amputation. Or the shelter did us a great thing. They gave us, let's find this here. So they didn't have to do this, but they signed as a group this beautiful thank you card. They got us pizza and they got us cake. So that's payment enough for us. Just feed us and we're pretty happy. So thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe, be sure to share. I love comments, so ask questions and I'll try and give updates. And of course, always be kind to animals. Thanks, guys.